Please proceed, Madam Secretary.
Good morning. This is a City Planning Commission public meeting held at NYC City Planning Commission hearing room, Lower Concourse, 120 Broadway. Today is Wednesday, January 9th, 2019. As a courtesy during the proceedings, we ask that you please turn off all cell phones and electronic devices. All speakers should fill out a speaker's card. In addition, we ask that those providing testimony please identify yourself, limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and speak clearly into the microphone. I will now call the roll. Chair Lago?
Here.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Here.
Commissioner Capelli?
Here.
Commissioner Cerullo? Commissioner Delaus?
Here.
Commissioner Dweck?
Here.
Commissioner Edie?
Here.
Commissioner Knight?
Here.
Commissioner Levin?
Here.
Commissioner Marin?
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz? Commissioner Rampachet?
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, December 19, 2018.
On the minutes, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved.
Scheduling. On calendar numbers 1 through 11, we have resolutions for adoption, scheduling Wednesday, January 30th, 2019, for a public hearing to be held at NYC City Planning Commission hearing room, Lower Concourse, 120 Broadway. Calendar number 12 has been laid over.
Resolutions, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The resolutions are adopted.
The next part of the calendar is the report section on page 19. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 13 and 14. Calendar number 13, CD 14, C180393ZMK. Calendar number 14, N180394ZRK. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning Caton Park Nursing Home rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 13 and 14. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo? Delos?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck? Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar number 13 and 14. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 15, 16, and 17. Calendar number 15, CD1, C180387ZSK. Calendar number 16, N180388ZRK. Calendar number 17, C180389ZSK. In the matter of applications for a zoning text amendment and for the grant of special permits concerning 12 Franklin Street. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 15, 16, and 17. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Delaus?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 15, 16, and 17. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 18, 19, and 20. Calendar number 18, CD2, N180457ZRK. Calendar number 19, C180458ZSK. Calendar number 20, C180459ZMK. In the matter of applications for a zoning text and zoning map amendments and for the grant of a special permit concerning 570 Fulton Street. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 18, 19, and 20. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Delaus?
Yes, with the hope that. Yes, with the hope that the city council address, follow up on the affordability issues.
Okay. Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet? Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 18, 19, and 20. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 21, 22, and 23. Calendar number 21, CD5, C190037ZSK. Calendar number 22, C190038HAK. Calendar number 23, C190039HUK. In the matter of applications for UDAP designation, project approval and disposition of city-owned property, amendment to the East New York URP, and special permit concerning 461 Alabama Avenue. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 21, 22, and 23. Madam Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Delaus?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet? Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 21, 22, and 23. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 24 and 25. Calendar number 24, CD 13, C170458, ZMK. Calendar number 25, N170459, ZRK. In the matter of application for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning West 22nd through West 23rd Street rezoning. For unfavorable reports on calendar numbers 24 and 25. Chair Lago.
I just want to clarify that the report that is prepared by staff is for disapproval of the project. So a vote yes is a vote to adopt the unfavorable report and deny the applications. So I vote yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
I'm going to abstain on this based on the concern about the displacement and the need for a right to return for the existing rent-stabilized tenants. And I appreciate the concerns that are outlined in the report by staff, and I also appreciate hearing from council about their concerns, but with that, I'm going to abstain.
Commissioner Dweck?
In line with the Borough President's recommendation, I'm going to vote yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
No, I believe for the reasons I stated on Monday that this application should be approved.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
I was very much swayed by Commissioner Levin's concerns, and I found myself in agreement that we really are compelled to vote on the application before us. That said, I also understand that the department is concerned, and rightly so, about the potential for spot zoning. I would implore City Council to avoid putting the department in that kind of predicament, and yet I do understand both concerns are legitimate and compelling, but don't feel I'm in a position to vote either way, so therefore I abstain.
Okay. Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
And unfavorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 24 and 25. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 26, CD 14, N190119, ZAK. In the matter of an application for the grant of an authorization concerning 56 Marlborough Road for adoption on calendar number 26. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Calendar number 26 has been adopted. Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 27 and 28. Calendar number 27, CD 11, C10, 060432, ZMQ. Calendar number 28, N180281, ZRQ. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning the Douglaston Parkway rezoning. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 27 and 28, Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
I vote yes, and I hope that there's continued follow-up on the traffic concerns that the community expressed, since they seem to be longstanding and go beyond the scope of this project.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz? Commissioner Rampachet? Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 27 and 28. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 29, CD3 N180236 RAR, in the matter of an application for the grant of an authorization concerning Eltonville Plaza for adoption on calendar number 29. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight? Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz? Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Calendar number 29 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 30, CD3, N190009 RCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 78 Woodland Avenue for adoption on calendar number 30. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight? Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz? Commissioner Rampachet? Calendar number 30 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 31, CD3 N190122 RCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 115 Seguin Avenue for adoption on calendar number 31. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes, on Seguin Avenue.
Okay.
Thanks for that local expertise.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck? Yes. Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin? Yes. Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet? Yes. Calendar number 31 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 32, CD3 N190100RCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 870 Lamont Avenue for adoption on calendar number 32. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Calendar number 32 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 33, CD3 N190140RCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 530 Ramona Avenue for adoption on calendar number 33. Chair Lago?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Capelli?
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Rampachet?
Yes.
Calendar number 33 has been adopted. The next part of the calendar is the public hearing section on page 39. Borough of Queens, calendar number 34, CD7 C190095 CSQ. A public hearing in the matter of an application for the grant of a special permit concerning 134-01 20th Avenue.
Our first speaker will be Jeremiah Kondreva.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, first, Happy New Year. I hope you all have a wonderful New Year. I represent CPEOA Limited Partnership, the applicant for the special permit to locate pursuant to 74-922 of the zoning resolution for use group 10 commercial use at 13401 20th Avenue. The existing building was formerly occupied by Staples. Staples has vacated the building. We would like to re-tenant the space with home goods, and the furniture store designation requires a use group 10 classification, which is not as of right in the existing M11 zone. The site plan that you see is subject to an existing special permit, and the request to add use group 10 to our building required a new special permit, and that is the application that is essentially before you.
Thank you. Questions from the commission? Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
That is the only speaker who is signed up on this item, but if anyone else wants to be heard, now would be the time. Okay, so this public hearing is closed. We may be setting a record.
Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 35, CD1 C190078 HAK. A public hearing in the matter of an application for a UDAP designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property concerning 63 Stockholm Street.
To have an applicant team presentation by Lynn Zheng, Drew Vanderberg, and Frank Long.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Lynn Zhang. I'm the Director of Brooklyn Planning at New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development. I'm here to introduce the land use application for Bushwick Alliance at 63 Stockholm Street. The proposed development was designated through HPD's new infill housing opportunity program, neighborhood construction program, request for proposal, and it will result in a 4-story building with 20 affordable rental units in Bushwick. I'm joined here by Drew Vanderberg from Riseboro Partnerships and Frank Lang from St. Nick's. They will also be presenting different aspects of the project and be on hand to answer any questions you may have. As you already know, this project requires the approval of an urban development action area, project designation and project approval, and the disposition city-owned land. And on the map there is the site that's in question. The development site is currently vacant and city-owned, and it has a lot area approximately 7,500 square feet and located within an R6 zoning district. And the development site is on Stockholm between Central and Evergreen Avenues, and it's well-served by transit. The JMZ subway stations are located only within half mile, and there are local bus services in the area as well. And the proposed project definitely reflects the residential nature in the surrounding area, which is predominantly characterized by 1- and 2-family as well as multifamily residential buildings. So at this time, I'm going to turn this over to Drew, who's going to talk about the project.
Hello, everyone. This is Drew Vanderberg from Riseboro Community Partnership. Really excited about this project in partnership with St. Nick's Alliance. We'll be having 20 units of affordable housing. It'll be a 4-story building. There are affordability levels between 37% AMI and 80% AMI. Also, this building will be designed to the Passive House Design Standard. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. It's an important initiative at Riseboro and throughout the city. There will be a solar panel grid on the roof. There will be a laundry room, bicycle storage, also a backyard, and when the building is complete, it will be approximately 19,000 square feet. This is the proposed program for the building. We have engaged deeply with the Bushwick community throughout our 40-year history there, as well as St. Nick's in the neighborhood. So we know that the community seeks deeply affordable housing. And so we've strived to receive the deepest affordability possible. We've got 5 studio units, 8 one-bedroom units, and 7 two-bedroom units in this project as currently proposed. And you can see 4 units between 37 to 40% AMI, 7 units between 47 to 50% AMI, and 9 units between 77% to 80% AMI, utilizing the new income averaging guidelines to achieve these rents, which translates to a monthly rent of approximately $524 per month to up to $1,749 per month, depending on unit size and family size. Here's the site plan from the bird's eye view. You can see that there is indeed a backyard. Also, the front of the building is set back about 10 feet from the lot line to allow for streetscaping, which also provides a little bit of privacy for the ground floor units in the front, and there will be some street trees included in the project. This is a slide about the passive house features that we're going to include. You can see an image of another Riseboro building, Knickerbocker Commons, with solar shading on the front that allows for the sun to hit it at different angles depending on the season. And it provides great air quality inside the building, temperature control for every individual unit. So you can see there'll be wall thicknesses and air tightness to provide better insulation for the tenants. We'll also utilize low voltage equipment, appliances, and air source heat pumps and heat recapture, and solar panels. So this provides not only a more sustainable building to help reduce the carbon footprint of the building stock in the city, but it provides lower utility bills for the tenants, thereby deepening the affordability. Another thing that we wanted to highlight, which was emphasized by the borough president when we presented to them, was the employment opportunities that Riseboro and St. Nick's will provide through this proposal, because we really emphasize local hiring in Bushwick and the surrounding area, as well as MWBE contractors being engaged. The architect as well is MWBE, that's Stat Architecture. And of course, this will be on HPD's Hire NYC portal, and Riseboro and St. Nick's also run workforce development and training programs. So the staff that works on the building, such as the supers and porters, as well as anyone else in the construction team, has an opportunity to receive additional training through our programs. That's it for now.
Vice Chair Nichols.
Thank you. Well, you're certainly touching a lot of bases with this project. I'm just curious with regard to the funding, the affordability levels. How are you funding the project?
Well, this project is funded with HPD subsidy and also a private bank loan.
The building will be applying for the low-income housing tax credit program in the next window of opportunity, probably in the summer, end of summer. And that, combined with the private loan and the low interest or interest-only loan from HPD, will be able to fund the project.
Thank you.
Out of curiosity, what is the allocation of responsibility between Riseboro and St. Nick's?
Go ahead.
Well, we're going to be 50/50 owners of the site, and Riseboro will be managing the property management, as we have a pretty robust property management arm, and this will be part of our scattered site portfolio in Bushwick. And then we'll just work, in terms of development, we're just going to work 50/50 on all those responsibilities.
Commissioner Delahoo's.
I just want to say it's great to see a 20-unit project with this depth of affordability. Hopefully you'll be successful in your LIHTC application. And it's great to also see two well-respected nonprofits working together to bring this to the community.
Yes, Commissioner Ortiz.
I will also add, I'm really pleased to see some of the design considerations on the ground floor with respect to privacy and some landscaping that, enables ground floor units that sort of contribute to the street. Thank you.
Commissioner Levin.
As long as we're liking things about this project. I have to add the passive house features. It's really refreshing to see a project with this level of affordability reach so far on the sustainability front as well. And you make a very powerful point that by reducing energy loads, we also reduce or add to affordability for the tenants. Thank you.
And could you give us the address of the Knickerbocker Common? Would be interested in seeing.
That's 803 Knickerbocker Avenue at the corner of Eldert and Knickerbocker.
Thanks. Other questions? Well, thank you to the applicant team. Those are the only people who have signed up to speak on this matter. If anyone else is interested, now would be the time. This public meeting is closed.
Borough of Brooklyn, calendar number 36 and 37. Calendar number 36, CD6, C180294, ZMK. Calendar number 37, N180295, ZRK. A public hearing in the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 41 Summit Street rezoning.
I'm recused on this.
We're going to have a presentation by the applicant team of Richard Lobel, David Rosenberg. Of difficulty with the handwriting, Jack Locicero, maybe?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. And then Sandy Hornick.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I think I'm waiting for the...
Yeah, if you could stop the clock until that's up.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, reset it.
Good morning, once again, Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel PC for the applicant. So we're here for the 41 Summit Street rezoning. The rezoning area is highlighted in the black dotted line on the screen on the area map. This parcel and the 3 lots which are included within the rezoning area are currently zoned M11. The area has been rezoned, as this is detailed in the materials submitted, but there's been roughly 6 private and city-sponsored rezonings in the area, which have generally rezoned much of the area in the neighborhood with regards to these blocks to anywhere from R6B zoning, as can be seen on the map, to R7 zoning or R7A. And so the parcel that is highlighted in the spotted area, and you can see from the land use of this block, is located, despite being M11, on a block which is primarily residential. Immediately to the northwest of the property is garden space. This will be probably the topic of much conversation during the course of the presentation today and through other testimony. The properties themselves, though, are underdeveloped or vacant. We have our property, which is a 2-story vacant manufacturing site. We've got a property immediately to the west of us, which is a 2-story commercial building with a bank on the ground floor, and then a small property amounting to roughly 1,800 square feet of lot area. This is a 3-story building with a vacant ground floor and 2 vacant residential units above. So you can see there in a little bit more detail what is proposed for this site. There are essentially R6B districts on mid-block, and there are generally higher districts on the Avenue side. And so much of the discussion when discussing our land use rationale with the department has been, what do you do with this site? It really kind of relates more to this open corner of Hamilton Avenue, which essentially functions as an extra wide street at this property. So you can see here a little bit the area and what we're looking at the entrance to the tunnel here, as well as the intersection of these two streets. So despite the fact that there's a park designation to the frontage of this property, and that's a rendering of the proposed building, you can see here clearly what we're looking at, which is the tunnel entrance. We're looking at a rather tall exhaust tower. It's a challenging site in that regard, in that while some of the properties to the rear of this site, which are facing the narrow street, are zoned R6B. The discussion to date has been that it would be more appropriate to rezone this site to an R7A to actually result in development on this corner. You can see from some of the other pictures that what we look at and what we relate to is, as can be seen on the land use map, more of a manufacturing and a commercial type of setting. So really you're kind of dividing the land use in the area to these residential blocks, as well as the lower density residential blocks to the north and to the northeast, and then this more kind of industrial type, including with larger buildings to the south, southwest, and west. The plans themselves are very straightforward. This is, again, a 2,500 square foot lot. In line with the transition rule, because of the adjacency to R6B, the height of the building would indeed be capped at 65 feet, so we come in under that. So despite the fact that we are seeking an R7A zoning in order to flesh out the floor plates and to achieve an FAR of 4, the actual square footage and in actual metrics, the height of the building actually does not exceed 65 feet. So much of the discussion about the height and concerns about the height are abated somewhat by the adjacency to the R6B. We also included an appendix. This was as a result of the conversations at the Brooklyn Borough President's Office. There was much discussion with regards to the adjacent garden. And so we like to really come at this on a factual basis as far as what projected shadows would be caused by the development. So at a full build scenario, you can see that we picked 4, as is practice for shadow studies, we picked about 4 different dates during the course of the year when the shadows would be expected to be at a minimum and a maximum. So you can see that early in March 21st, there's shadows along some of the garden. However, by the afternoon, the shadows are decreased to a minimal portion as a result directly of the project-generated shadows. May 6th, similarly, you see shadows generated in the morning, but in essence, during the afternoon, and for really most of the day, these are somewhat abated. This, of course, is in part due to the situation of the garden with regards to the property, governed by the east-west corridor for sun and shadows that would not really cast shadows in a lasting way. Moreover, you can see on June 21st, shadows are at a minimum, and this, of course, enters the spring and summer months. And again, in the afternoon, they're totally gone. The greatest impact being in December, where, of course, this is not considered to be a growing season, as well as the fact that, again, in the afternoon, while shadows would be generated, they would be generated to the rear of the site. We would further note that in much of the photos regarding the adjacent garden, there is much tree cover here. So, this obviously would affect growing cycles as well. But in general, with regards to a land use rationale, we do feel that this is appropriate. And I actually would have Sandy Hornick just discuss briefly with regards to the land use rationale and the context of the area.
Good morning. My name is Sandy Hornick. I'm a land use consultant working with Sheldon Lobel and Associates. And really, this is a very typical standard pattern where you've got a very, very wide street, Hamilton Avenue, which seems even wider because of the park that surrounds the event building, and then Hamilton Avenue again on the other side. So it is one of the widest possible locations in New York City, and it is an opportunity to get the most housing and the biggest contribution for affordable housing by doing an R7A. R7A is very typical on wide streets. All of 4th Avenue south of the Prospect Expressway to 64th Street is R7A. backs right up to an R6B. While I was sitting here, I realized that I live in an R6B district directly across from an R7A district on Flatbush Avenue. It's very common, and it's a real opportunity to get housing with very little, if any, negative impact.
I think we'd be happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Great. Questions from the commission? Commissioner Levin.
Well, you both have done a good job of explaining the context across to the, I guess, to the southwest, to the public park, to the tunnel exit, to the industrial zones in what's essentially the Red Hook neighborhood. But I wonder also about its relationship to the context on the block it's on. You mentioned that there are R7 and R7A districts nearby, but Sandy refers to 4th Avenue. That's a long way away. Did you consider an R6B zoning for this? What would that do to your project? And isn't that more consistent with what's going on this block?
Yeah, you know, there's been a discussion throughout the process with regards to an R6B, and truthfully, the R6B here would be would result on the project site with a 2 FAR. In an M11 itself, with community facility and commercial, you would have an FAR of 2.4. So already the existing context and the existing potential development of the building would exceed the R6B. And we know from the historic use of the site, the lack of any further development on the site, and quite frankly, the fact that these properties are vacant, that it actually is challenging to populate these at the existing FAR and with an R6B. I mean, this is not done lightly. We feel that, we've really kind of been challenged throughout the process, and part of this has been that without an R7A and without the additional availability for additional bulk, this would result in essentially a situation where the property would just remain in this setting, in perpetuity. The other thing that I'd note is that the height here, which again is mentioned as a concern and is always a concern, really at an R7A adjacent to the R6B functions at essentially a height cap of an R6A. So the R6A is typically at a 65-foot height cap, whereas because of the adjacency to the R6B, we're at 63 feet. The fact is that what the rezoning enables us to do is to really flesh out the floor plates on a very small lot, and like Sandy said, it essentially allows for creation of residential where otherwise there wouldn't be any.
Yeah, okay, well, so thank you. So you're on your comments about FAR, there is also a substantial difference between going from an M zone to an R zone. So, it's not equivalent
Understood.
on the FAR front. And also the points you make on the transition rules about its impact on height are well taken on your client's property, but wouldn't necessarily apply to the rest of the site. So we have to be mindful also of the height concerns for the other sites.
We understand that, and that is true. However, the impact on the corner lot, as an example, which is the larger lot and with the most lot area of any of the 3 lots, the arguments for an R7A on that lot are actually even more compelling because that lot directly fronts on Hamilton Avenue. I mean, our existence on this corner essentially functions as having a wide street, but they are, they have most of their frontage here, basically along Hamilton, and so they really are appropriate for an R7A. It's really, as you look at the area and you look at the blocks, particularly those behind us, there's a clear distinguishing or differential between the properties fronting on Carroll Street and the properties fronting on this corner. Our feeling and the, I think this bears out as far as the development because we're looking at what actually would get built and whether or not we would proceed to build. The project for the applicant here wouldn't work at an R6B. They wouldn't be able to they wouldn't be able to generate sufficient income to the property to result in a development. So we hope that those reasons are compelling.
Okay. And finally, I note that our materials did not include a recommendation by the borough president. Has that been received? Are you aware of
We've
what
been
the?
in constant communication with the borough president as recently as last night, and we were hopeful to get something, but we have not received it.
You haven't seen anything either? Okay,
We'll pass it along as soon as we receive it.
all right, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you to the applicant team. We have a number of speakers in opposition, and for those who arrived after the beginning of the meeting, just to repeat that each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will start with Anu Schwartz. Mr. Schwartz has a digital presentation, and so we'll just take a moment to set it up.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Hi, thank you. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. Okay. Okay, hi, I'm Anu Schwartz. I'm a resident of Columbia Waterfront, and I oppose the rezoning. I have visuals here to explain. The first slide shows a rendering which I believe depicts what the building could look like, both on 41 and 75 and 79 Hamilton, 41 Summit and 75, 79 Hamilton, which is not contextual with the neighborhood, as you can see, a lot of low-rise buildings. And this is a view looking north into Columbia Waterfront, which is largely a low-rise neighborhood. This is a view looking south into Red Hook. The tunnel to the vent to the tunnel is shown there, as you can see, is dwarfed by what is potential for 75 and 79 Hamilton. Also, this is a view from street level, as well as the zoning map showing purple and black lots that, in my opinion, if the rezoning is allowed, could pave way for other buildings that are not contextual with the neighborhood as well. And there's quite a lot of them, as you can see. This is also at street level. The first photo on the left is the backyard garden, and the white building behind it is 75 Hamilton. As you can see, it's a two-story building, so if what is allowed in the rezoning wouldn't even fit on this photo. Likewise, to the right is Summit Street, which was recently rezoned, this development, which is contextual with the neighborhood and makes sense, in my opinion. This is the sun study from the EAS, which shows 4 different points in the season, which not only affects the garden, it affects other adjacent buildings, particularly north of the property. This is a map of transit, which there's one bus system. The B61 services all of Columbia Waterfront. The F train is nearly a mile away, which is the closest subway. And I think a building of that size with the residents would affect parking in the neighborhood, which is already a major issue. And that concludes the presentation, and I thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you for the time on the presentation. Questions for Mr. Schwartz? Yes, Commissioner Levin.
Well, I guess I would ask you if a contextual rezoning here, I mean, these are lots that not much has happened on, and I think we do have an opportunity to add to the housing stock, which in my view would be a good thing, but it's important to do it in a way that's contextually appropriate. Is there a rezoning that you would like to see here or be willing to accept here?
I believe what was done, and forgive me, I forgot the numbers, but on Summit Street, 53 or to
4351 or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think those were appropriately done. I think they look appropriate for the neighborhood. So your answer, the answer is yes. I do believe there is something appropriate.
So something could happen?
Yeah, I personally am not against development. I just think smart development and that is inclusionary to the community and to the neighborhood and is thoughtful in that way.
Okay.
I think is
Good. So can you tell us about Columbia Waterfront Neighbors? Is that you?
I'm part of a group that we've come together on this
Okay. Is
issue.
on this particular application, or are you a group that's working on wider?
No, just this particular
This one,
application.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where does your group come from? Are you
Just our neighborhood.
just that block?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In the Columbia Waterfront neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, you bet.
Other questions?
I have a submission of the
Oh, thank you.
copy.
Great, thank you, Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Josh Bonatti.
Yeah, you just run in here.
Oh, great. Hi, thank you very much for hearing us out today. So my name's Josh Bonatti. I'm also one of the neighbors of 25 Carroll, sorry. Anu lives in my building, and we're part of this group, and we strongly oppose the development as it's proposed, and I think I'm just going to leave this photo up. It's the only one I really need to really, I think, allow everyone to notice that really the developer just wants to build these big, kind of giant, obese buildings in our neighborhood, and basically no one wants them. And there's a bunch of people that will speak to that right after me. I think that I'm in agreement with my neighbors that it's completely out of context with the rest of the neighborhood. And I may just take a quick second to push back on a claim the developer made that if we don't develop these buildings as wanted here, that they will sit vacant in perpetuity. That's just, there's no way that that's true. That's just pulled out of thin air, frankly. Now, none of my neighbors are against development whatsoever. We know that those properties are in fact vacant, but if there's going to be development, I think it should be done in a respectful manner. And it's very easy to see from this slide that that's completely out of context with the neighborhood. And I think, I mean, I'm not normally involved in development stuff, so I don't remember the numbers quite well, but I think it's the R6B designation that we would prefer over the R7A. It's just not true that if you don't give an R7A, that corner of Hamilton and Summit will languish and just be destitute. That's not true at all. So we're against this. We're hoping that if there is rezoning, that it will just be R6B if it's changed from the M1-1. We also love our garden, which is right next to this development, and that's half the reason why we're fighting against this proposal, is because we love the garden. We don't want to see it affected by this development, which it will do, and you'll hear from some of the gardeners as well. So I guess I'll go ahead and wrap up really quickly, but I would summarize my opposition to this project in that way. I mean, we don't want this, we don't need this. I can't think of a single thing that this development will make better in our neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you for coining a new term, Mr. Bonatti. We've heard buildings called too tall or too dense, but I had never before heard a building called obese. Questions for Mr. Bonatti?
Oh, sorry.
Nope, you're off the hook.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Gail Ressler.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for allowing us this process. It's been a real learning process for the folks in our neighborhood who haven't really done this before, but felt compelled by this project to speak our minds and our experience. So, I'll leave that slide up, and I will add a few things besides general agreement. I don't know what I did there, sorry. But I would say there are a few things that I want to say. One is that what I see when I see the Columbia Waterfront District is a tremendous opportunity for development that's thoughtful and contains all those wonderful amenities and things we saw in a previous presentation, which were lacking in the one for this site. As someone who is a driver, a pedestrian, and a bike rider, I just shiver at the thought of that intersection being built as like this wide, generous thoroughfare, because it is one of those intersections that you better not be thinking about texting, because there's traffic coming from multiple directions at once. And if this building were to be built as proposed and has families in it and kids, this is just not the place for this kind of development without those considerations. I did not see anything that reflected what I see in that intersection. I'd also just want to add that in the potential for this area, you see no schools, you see no transportation. This is definitely a transportation desert, which needs to be addressed, of course, beyond the scope of today, but it does impact this. And, you know, I think the character of the neighborhood is at risk, and that we don't want to see every lot which will be developed. I would agree with what the previous speaker said, which is to characterize it as inevitable that we will have development of these lots because they have great potential. They have views, they have a desirable neighborhood, and a changing neighborhood, and we want the change to be for the better. That's really my commentary.
Thank you, Ms. Ressler. Questions? Thanks. Our next speaker is Anthony Bradfield.
Yes, good morning. My name is Anthony Bradfield. I live at 22 Carroll Street. I'm also part of an organization that really just came about because people, it's just informal group that we're just came together because of being outraged at this audacious proposal, which is totally out of context with our neighborhood. So that's really how we came together, and it's just people in the neighborhood. What I wanted to point out in the slide is that on 41 Summit is actually not on the wide water part of Hamilton Avenue. It's on a narrow street. It's on. Oh, thank you. So that's one thing, and then so it's, if you look at it behind, directly behind, because of the way the Hamilton Avenue is cuts across, the Summit Street is, the 41 Summit is actually in the middle of the block, or at least in the middle third of Carroll Street, which is directly behind it. The other thing that the developer said is that in this area that there has been rezoning in R7A. It hasn't. Earlier in 2018, the lots of 55 to 61 Summit Street was also M1 and rezoned to R6B, with also an affordable housing component. You can see it in the picture. It's the undeveloped lot on the other side of the series of buildings on Summit. So and that's just that area which was rezoned from M1 to R6B with affordable housing is just a mere, you can see count the buildings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 houses away from 41 Summit. The area was in 2009, there was a rezoning plan that was adopted by the city planning that looked at this whole area It was an 86-block area, both Carroll Gardens and Columbia Waterfront, that took a thoughtful approach to how this area should be developed. It involved neighborhood groups.
Thank you, Mr. Bradfield. We have quite a number of speakers.
Okay.
Questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Ariel Meyer.
Good morning. My name is Ariel Meyer. I'm a resident of 22 Carroll Street. I'm a mother of young children. I live directly opposite this project proposal. What I'd like to say this morning is that we are a mixed-use neighborhood in a transportation desert. As a commenter already said, there's one bus and a subway a mile away. Our schools are overcrowded, and we have no local hospital. Litch. Everybody knows what happened there. We do not have the infrastructure to support a building of this size. We need smart, thought-out rezoning and new development. This project does not support our neighborhood, and our neighborhood does not support this project. Community Board 6 rejected this plan. There's no affordable housing, no sustainability or energy efficiency, no parking provided, increasing congestion and smog. Far from good transit options, so car ownership is likely. Bad precedent for Brooklyn. Any other lot could be rezoned with non-contextual building if this passes. Larger site massing not shown, disclosed except in shadow studies. Shadows will negatively impact the new skate park to be constructed across from the site in 2019, 2020. The city's investment is at risk of fail for this open space. Community garden area with the most sensitive sun plants will have sunlight blocked. Rear yards on my block that are used for gardening. Many low-income people rely on vegetables they grow in these yards. We won't be able to do that. Our schools are overcrowded. Extra apartments will worsen a bad education. Artists reside on this block. This is a mixed-use neighborhood. There's Gowanus Nursery, there's artists. The natural daylight to perfect the colors of work for artists will be blocked. The studios will be darkened. In my final comments, what I'd like to say is to all of the commissioners this morning, when you're voting, I hope you'll think about the existing community and how this project will negatively impact us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Questions? Thank you. Our next speaker is Eric Thuman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the commission. It's Eric Thoman. It's a Swiss pronunciation. I have to say, on advice of Parks Legal Counsel, that I am a city employee official. I am an outreach coordinator for Parks Green Thumb, and anything that I say here is my personal opinion, my private opinion, and does not reflect any opinion or viewpoint of Parks Department or from Green Thumb. I'm also here on my own time. I'm not here on city time. So with that said, let me just go ahead and say that I am here as a founder of the Backyard Community Garden, founded back in 1996, and we now have a very viable group that is actively gardening in the neighborhood, and we had set up the design and plot for the garden to maximize the sunlight for food growing that is closest to 75 Hamilton, with a large proposal going through here This would shade out our food production area and would adversely affect not only our food production, but also our membership and our ability to keep recruiting members of the garden. I'm also here as a resident of Carroll Street, and I also have a rear garden area that is growing kiwi, grapes, chokeberry, juneberry, raspberry, and currants. And this would my planting there would negatively be impacted by a very large building casting a shadow on what is the rear areas of Carroll Street. Recently, I just planted an apple tree in a memorial to my mother who had passed away Sunday, and that apple tree would be in the shade of this proposed building, not being able to produce the fruit that we were planning on developing from that. So I'm here to say that I am negatively, I'm opposed to this proposal going forward, and would like to ask if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Toman. And as we're getting closer to lunchtime, your listing of all the plants back there are making us hungry for some fruit. Questions? Commissioner Levin.
I'm very glad you're here. I had some questions about the community garden and was hoping someone was going to turn up who was able to speak about it.
Yes.
I see that all of the parcels in the community garden are all city-owned parcels. Is that right?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
It's blocks 4 through 10 in block 352.
Okay, and the community garden is in the Green Thumb program?
It is definitely registered in the Green Thumb program.
Okay, and could you tell us a little more about how this particular community garden operates? You described the plantings, but does it have a program of being open to the public? Are there
Yes, I can.
Seating, how else is it being used besides growing
Yes,
things?
there are.
And how wide is the community group that is managing the
Right,
garden?
there are several programs. I think one of the other gardeners here is going to go into further detail on that. But we do have outdoor movies that are shown. Wow. We have general open hours that are kept open 20 hours a week, some often way more than that. We do have like we've got a communal raspberry bush that's open to the public that is, you can come on in season and pick those raspberries. We've had art displays, art distributions, we've had poetry readings, and we've had musical performances there, to be brief.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dweck.
Would you be able to assess for us the impact or the difference in impact if it was an R6B?
I'm not well versed in the vernacular there. I'm sorry, but are you talking about a taller building, R6B?
Lower, shorter.
A shorter building. I am not opposed to development in that area. So if there is...
Let me just, shorter as of right. I'm not sure as to what the applicant is proposing, but I'm not sure how they did their studies based on the proposed or the actual proposed zoning change, but go ahead.
We're living quite comfortably with the 3-story buildings that are in the neighborhood, that are in context. We designed that for the shade that was cast from a 3-story building that is like next to the 75, for example, 75 Hamilton Street. So we designed our building, we designed our garden so that we could have our food growing areas in relation to a neighboring 3-story building next to us. I'm talking about 75 Hamilton.
And if this building was built as proposed, would you be able to rearrange the garden that to maximize the light under the new scenario?
Yeah, the answer is no. The original plan of that garden was to have a sunny side and a shady side. so that we had a food-producing area on the eastern side, and we had a shady area, a wild oval, so to speak, on the western side. To move our food-producing area into the shady side would be non-productive in terms of food production.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Toman.
You're welcome.
Our next speaker is Matthew Niswander.
Hi, I'm Matt Niswander. I live at 12 Carroll Street, so we directly behind the garden, and our deck overlooks the garden. So of course, the deck where my 4 kids play would be directly affected by a large building like this looming overhead. But I understand that with any development, there's going to be some people who gain and some people who don't. But this just seems out of keeping with the character of the neighborhood, and I feel like it's much more than my family that would be negatively affected. And as someone who's hasn't gone through this process before, I find it distressing that the existing zoning would be overturned when it doesn't seem that circumstances in the neighborhood have changed. There's been nothing's changed except someone wants to build and overturn zoning without a compelling reason given for what circumstances have changed. And I haven't seen anything significant being contributed to the neighborhood as a concession for having that overturned. So that, as someone not familiar with the process, it feels like a giveaway to me. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Mr. Niswander. Questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Our next speaker is John Tran.
Hi, my name is John Tran. I'm a resident over on Carroll Street. The project itself is proposing a 6-story building at the moment, which they're potentially going to do a higher building if allowable on the other part if it gets rezoned. In doing that, it, in a sense, makes this building a little pinnacle for a view of what's going to happen and present as part of New York. And as you looked at their building that they presented, it wasn't very iconic or very beautiful. It didn't take any lead or sustainability concepts in their design. They're not really doing anything with affordable housing because of the quantity that they have to build. So in a sense, they're trying to build for their own gain, in a sense. So for myself, I'm not very happy with that part of their project. I'm not opposed to the lower building and development of the current existing contextual buildings and design. So if they could stick within that limit, that would be acceptable for my opinion. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Tran? Thank you.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Dave Lutz.
Good morning. I'm Dave Lutz, and I'm the acting coordinator of the Backyard Community Garden. And Eric stole a lot of my thunder. I don't want to go back over all those points. So I just thought I would spend a moment giving you a little bit of history of the space and how it came to be a garden and how it came to look like it looked like. The garden space, I think, was taken by the city by eminent domain as part of the construction of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. So that space has remained vacant for a long, long time. 20 years ago, neighbors got together and cleaned mounds of garbage out of that space and turned it into the gem that it is. We directly attempted to maximize our sun in the horticultural part of the garden. We included other amenities in the garden, like a public event space and a tranquility garden, because at that time we were threatened by the mayor of the city of New York, who wanted to sell all the gardens in the city. So we reacted to some of the things that were being used as arguments against gardening and created a garden that served many needs. It serves the needs of musicians to practice their music. It serves the needs of school groups that come in there and just have their kids run around a little bit. It serves the needs of people who teach where vegetables come from. I grew up thinking that vegetables came from supermarkets, and I've learned differently, partially as a community gardener. That's all I want to say. We really do care. That space would be the horticultural space, the place where we plant our foods and flowers, will be definitely covered in shade for all of the morning and part of the afternoon by a 10-story or a 9-story blank wall.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Ortiz.
Hi, good morning. I was struck by the applicant pointing out.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Hello. So I was struck that the applicant mentioned that there's a lot of tree coverage currently over the garden, and that could you speak to that? Is that the case? Is it?
Yes, I'm going to ask you to speak.
Tree coverage.
Oh, the tree coverage. Yeah, those trees were planted in a direct reaction to Mayor Giuliani's threat to the garden. we put them there because we felt at that time to create a space that was a multi-use space, rather than a pure gardening space.
I guess the question is, do they currently create significant shade?
The trees do provide shade, and
over the balance of the garden.
Mostly over the balance of the garden. Of the areas of the garden were not designed to grow fruits and flowers. Okay, that area we do a lot of carving back of the trees and trimming of the trees. Matter of fact, we've recently had a parks crew trim the trees.
So there is an area that's dependent on light. The
area that's dependent upon light, we protect as best we can.
Okay, and is that area affected? Because in some of the shadow studies, we noticed that the shadow was created the most impact, immediately adjacent to the building. Where is the planting area?
The planting area is adjacent to what would be a 9 or 10-story wall. Okay, the planting area, the place where we grow our vegetables, is right against this area that's being rezoned. The area that's furthest away is the area that the Tranquility Garden sits in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Lutz.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Walter.
Good morning. I just wanted to echo the points that were made throughout the presentation opposing this rezoning. There's no question that this building does not fit within the contextual size of the neighborhood. I'm a resident of Summit Street. I moved to Summit Street about 6 years ago. I'm also a president of the condominium association at 4953 Summit Street. If I was to speak for my condo association, I would say that we, as much as most of the people who oppose this rezoning today, are not opposed of rezoning within the contextual size of what's in the neighborhood at the present time. We, over the course of the last 6 years, have seen additional development down the block, specifically the buildings between my condominium and the proposed rezoning of 41 Summit Street are now rental units. Since then, parking is almost impossible to come by. In addition, I would note that the comments that were made by the applicant for rezoning that a project within the context of the current zoning would not be sustainable or doable is absolutely incorrect. And I could speak from my condominium association, which sold out within 6 months of the building hitting the market. The building next door to us, which are rental buildings, are successfully being rented. And I know for a fact are very profitable. That's all I have for today.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Andrew Bradfield.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Bradfield. I'm a part owner of 22 Carroll Street, immediately behind the subject area being considered. I also happen to be a property developer myself, having earned my living predominantly as a property developer for the past 18 years. So I'd like to present a slightly different perspective on this. And highlighting two things in particular. First off, a change in zoning from the M1 to R6B would guarantee redevelopment of this site. There's no need to, additional bulk would make a more lucrative project, but there's no question that a 25-foot wide, or I don't remember the exact dimensions of this one particular site, would get redeveloped, and I do that based on my own professional opinion as a developer. Secondly, my opposition to the current proposal is based upon a slightly, I guess, something that was touched on earlier but not really focused on, which is the resulting environment in which property developers would look at such a rezoned property map, zoning map, and wonder to themselves, well, why can't I seek out a rezoning of this property or a potential property for sale that could have a bulk that is much out of character with the rest of the immediately adjoining properties. That creates a speculative environment which is very confusing to developers. As a developer myself, I've learned to focus on the primacy of city planning studies to understand whether a property might be rezoned or not. And the 2009 rezoning in this area was something I was an owner of the property during that time, and it made sense. It was studied, and R6B was a reasoned recommendation from the city planning study, and that's, as a property developer, it makes it much more simple to follow the directives of a study rather than to look at the speculative potential for a very small area to be rezoned for a bulk bonanza. So that's my perspective.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Bradfield? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
That is the last speaker who has signed up, but if there are others who would want to be heard, now would be the time. Yes, please come forward and also introduce yourself.
My name is Jill Bernstein. I'm a resident of the neighborhood. I live on Carroll Street. I am a mother of 2 children who attend local public school. Our kids play at Harold Ickes Park, which is right across directly from the site in question. We cross Hamilton Avenue all the time. It is treacherous. It's very much part of our neighborhood. This is not some wide thoroughfare. It is part of our neighborhood. For those of you who might not have visited this particular corner of Brooklyn before, I need to describe it a little bit. It's remarkable. It's mixed income. It's mixed generation. I've been a New Yorker for 25 years now, and this is unlike anything I've ever experienced in the city. We are tight-knit. There are little lawns out in front of most of these blocks down in this neighborhood. Our kids play out there, and every season we talk as neighbors all the time. We watched the Hurricane Sandy waters rise together and stood out, and we support each other, and this is just, it's a special place. We have come together in many ways over the past few years. This is not the first time the neighborhood has organized. A few years ago, we bonded together to help get a traffic light put on the corner of Columbia Street and Carroll. It was meaningful for walking our children, little children, across a treacherous intersection just to get them across to school. We had great support from our councilman and from our state senator and from our United States representative. We have also had a lot of support in maintaining and ensuring the continuation of the next to Cabrini Park. There's the urban garden, and there have been other things as well. Community gardens. We are here. We are in this for the long haul. We're not passing through this part of this neighborhood. I am greatly opposed to this project because of what it will do for light and parking and the overcrowding of our schools, which is a huge issue, but also for the precedent that it sets. We want to preserve the economic diversity and vibrancy of this neighborhood. This building would establish a damaging precedent that we think would just destroy the fabric of what we have and what it represents for the world.
Quite a flourish.
I didn't know how to end. I just, you know.
One question, Ms. Bernstein, what is the closest public elementary school?
It's funny, it depends on which block you're on. If south of the south side of Union, I believe, or President, it's weirdly configured. It's PS 58, which is across the street on Carroll Park, so we have to cross all the way there. If you're slightly north, it's PS 29. And I think since my kids have matriculated in, they have started putting some of the children a little farther in the Hamilton area toward Red Hook to PS 15.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Thank you for your testimony. If there are any other folks who would want to come forward, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bill Penner. I'm a resident of the neighborhood. I live on President Street. I'm also a registered architect in New York State. I'm speaking, actually, I really have mixed feelings about development as I am involved with it in my profession, but I think that one of the things that struck me about what's going on with this particular location is that it does seem to deviate from some of the commission's prior intents for the neighborhood. And so I think that it would seem that it may be helpful for the community at large to have maybe a wider discussion if the commission felt that there were other needs that the neighborhood needed to serve in the long term so that the community would be able to at least participate in maybe a long-term plan for the neighborhood, because I know that it is changing. Many people that are there right now were there when it was really very undesirable to live there. So I think most of the people here have expressed understanding that there needs to be some change, but to deviate from what I think is precedent from the commission's at least earlier thought process, I think maybe would require some further discussion so that in the future we wouldn't have to approach each project on a piecemeal basis. So thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you for coming forward. Others who would like to speak? Commissioner Levin.
I just wanted to compliment the community for coming out with such a range of thoughtful comments on this process. Ms. Ressler explained that this was a learning process for some in the community. We're glad you took the time to learn the lesson, because I think the range of issues that you all have identified for us kind of cut across all the kind of planning concerns that we have to think about. And it's impressive to see a bunch of community planners who do this from learning the ground up, which is the way I came to this work. It's really great. That's what this ULURP process is all about. So thank you for taking the effort to show up.
I want to echo Commissioner Levin's comments, and in particular because in this instance, the community board, when it voted against the project, did not provide any comments or conditions. And so we as the commission didn't have the benefit of knowing the exact nature of the community concern. So I thank you for taking time out of your days to do this. And again, I ask, is there anyone else who would want to come forward?
Hi, good morning, and thanks for the opportunity. My name is Sarah Nolan. I'm also a resident of Columbia Waterfront and neighbors with many of the folks who spoke today. I won't reiterate many of the points, which I think were very well made. Just for me personally, I've lived in the neighborhood since 2005 in the Carroll Gardens Generally neighborhood. I moved to the waterfront about 7 months ago, so I know from being actively looking in that neighborhood, there's lots of opportunities and more development on the lower scale, the R6B would definitely be desirable to folks who are looking to move into that neighborhood. I've also been a member of a nearby community garden for many, many years, not the backyard garden, but another one. So I just want to speak to how much of a draw that area actually has a number of community gardens, and it has really been a part of the revitalization, I believe, of that part of the waterfront. Even if there's a tree, the light coming in through the tree, even if there's shade, is a beautiful and wonderful thing to have in your neighborhood and have it to be open to the public. Anybody can become a member of the community garden, so even if it's not open, you can get a key by showing up to the meetings and by volunteering. You can get your own plot in many of these gardens. So I just wanted to sort of emphasize how much that these gardens do bring, and having a 10-story building adjacent to that garden does detract from the overall experience of being in that really wonderful public space. I have 2 young children, and so the availability of having that green space in an otherwise fairly sort of industrial feeling, mixed-use neighborhood is really wonderful. So I would really hate to see a development that didn't take that into account, and also all the work that the Planning Commission does, and when they do these rezonings, like was done in 2009, sort of hearing all these concerns, it would be troubling to me to see individual developers be able to come in and overturn that without really presenting any compelling reason to approve this particular project in terms of the affordability. I heard in the previous presentation talk about employing the local community as part of the development, and involving women-owned businesses and contracting. I didn't hear any of those kinds of proposals in this development, which I would hope would be what we would expect from folks who are asking you to overturn existing zoning regulations. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you, Ms. Nolan. Any others who would want to speak? Okay, then the public hearing is closed.
Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 38, CD 10, C190094, PCM, a public hearing in the matter of an application for site selection and acquisition of property concerning Joseph Daniel Wilson Memorial Garden.
And our speaker is Michael Partegius-Swart, and available for questionings is Jose Lopez from the Parks Department.
Good morning, Chair Lago and Commissioners. My name is Michael Partegius-Swart. I'm a project planner with the Department of Parks and Recreation. Parks with co-applicants, Department of Citywide Administrative Services, are seeking to site select and acquire property located at 225 West 122nd Street in Manhattan, Community Board 10. The requested action will allow Parks and DCAS to acquire the subject property to facilitate the expansion of the Joseph Daniel Wilson Memorial Garden, aka the J.D. Wilson Memorial Garden. It occupies Manhattan Block 1928, lots 22 and 23, alternating with the proposed acquisition site. The site is 2,522 square feet, encompassing 2 lots on the north side of 122nd Street, mid-block between Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard and Frederick Douglass Boulevard. The project site is surrounded by multi-family residential apartment buildings with a building height of 4 to 6 stories and is zoned R7A for medium-density residential. The current garden consists of 2 city-owned lots, 22 and 23. These lots, plus the 2 that are to be acquired, shown in transparent green on the slide, have been used as a community garden by community members since 1985. The garden has been a positive community resource, providing community-managed passive open space for residents and setting for environmental education. Parks obtained jurisdiction of the 2 city-owned lots in 2002 for community garden purposes. The garden is currently licensed through the Parks Green Thumb program, with Project Harmony as the gardener of record. License requirements include keeping the garden open to the public at least 20 hours a week during the growing season, allowing neighborhood residents to join the garden on a first-come, first-served basis, and posting information and signage on the garden fence. Borough President Brewer has acknowledged the importance of preserving the entire garden and has allocated funds towards the acquisition of the private property. The Parks Department and DCAS are seeking the City Planning Commission's support for the proposed action to facilitate the acquisition and preservation of this privately owned lots so that they may be formally included and preserved as part of the larger community garden. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah.
Vice Chair Nichols.
What is the level of subsidy? I assume there is some from parks to a garden like this, assuming the transfer of ownership is completed.
Parks has not provided any funding towards
No funding?
No.
Other questions? Thank you. So these are the only speakers who have signed up. If anyone else would want to be heard, please come forward now. Okay. This public hearing is closed.
Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 39, CD9, C180404 PCM. This is a continued hearing, public hearing, in the matter of an application for the site selection and acquisition of property concerning the Frank White Memorial Garden.
We welcome you back.
Once again, good morning, Chair Lago and Commissioners. My name is still Michael Portuguese-Swart, and I'm still a project planner at the Department of Parks and Recreation. Parks with co-applicants, Department of Citywide Administrative Services, are seeking to site select and acquire property located at 510 West 143rd Street in Manhattan, Community Board 9. The requested action will allow Parks and DCAS to acquire this subject property to facilitate the expansion of the Frank White Memorial Community Garden, occupying Manhattan Block 2074, lots 45 and 46, adjacent to the proposed acquisition site, which is lot 146. The site is a 1,873 square foot area located on the south side of 143rd Street, mid-block between Broadway and Hamilton Place. The project site is surrounded by multifamily residential apartment units with a building height of 3 to 6 stories and is zoned R6A for medium density residential. In 1999, lots 45 and 46, shown in transparent green on the slide, were assigned to Parks for garden purposes under the Green Thumb program. In 2001, members of the Brotherhood Sister Soul, a youth development organization, joined with existing community garden leaders to operate and care for the garden. The Frank White Memorial Garden exists today as a community space to grow fresh produce and facilitate environmental education programs for neighborhood youth. Given the difficulty of creating new open space, this is a great opportunity to preserve an existing garden. Borough President Brewer and Councilmember Levine have both acknowledged the importance in preserving the entire garden and allocated funds towards the acquisition. The Parks Department and DCAS are seeking the City Planning Commission's support of this proposed action to facilitate the acquisition and preservation of the privately owned lot so that it may be formally included as part of the larger community garden. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions? Thank you. We have a number of speakers in support, beginning with Dominique Mitchell.
Good morning. My name is Dominique Mitchell. I'm 29 years old, and I grew up on 143rd Street. It's been a part of my life, my entire life, and having the opportunity to have a garden in such neighborhood is really vital to the culture of the community. To have annual block parties where we could host and serve food out of the garden, people play. We have planting week. We plant flowers and things of that nature. To have this place or part of the garden to be owned by another entity is kind of weird to me, knowing that the entire garden is used as a functioning garden. So the fact that there is someone trying to intervene in the usage of the whole garden is kind of weird to me. Being a member of the community, this garden, like I said, has been a part of my life my whole life. And there was a time where the garden was like a a dump, and my cousin helped to be able to fortify vegetables and things of that nature. So for it to, again, I just want to reiterate that the entire garden should remain a garden. The gazebo is a beautiful place to sit under during a beautiful day. There are trees and fruits and vegetables in the garden. I just, again, would like to reiterate that the entire garden stay a garden.
Thanks for sharing your personal perspective. Questions? Thank you. Our next speaker is Crystal Pope.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Crystal Pope. I'm a resident of 143rd between Hamilton Place and Broadway. The Frank White Garden definitely has been in my life my whole life. I actually have 2 children that love and enjoy going into the garden and helping build the garden up. The garden definitely has been a staple in our neighborhood where we have watched people get married, throw parties, throw get-togethers, have meetings, have performances and things of that nature. A lot of the community children, teenagers have helped plant and build up the garden to its current image as it is right now. Again, piggybacking off of what Dominique said, we watched the garden come from a complete dump to we all helping in the community to build it up and to get it to where it is now. So I definitely would appreciate if the garden can stay a garden forever, and we as a community can take care of it together as we always have been.
Thank you for painting such a vibrant picture of the garden. Questions? Thank you. Our next speaker is Stephanie Rogers.
Good morning, my name is Stephanie Rogers. I just want to say I've been living off 143rd Street for my entire life. I'm 29 years old. I started with my cousin Ted growing up. He taught me how to use a lot of power tools, such as drills, sewing machines, and things of that nature. From that, I learned to build gazebos, greenhouses, made flower beds, planting, and I just feel as if that, because of everything that I've learned and gained experience, that, this garden it should always stand and stay strong, because we are a family garden, we're a community garden, and then we're a growing garden. Also, this is one of the gardens that's open 60 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and it's open to the community. And we, it's I'm lost for words right now. Sorry about that. But as I was saying, it's a beautiful place for us to have and to maintain, and we will and always keep doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. I could listen to these outpourings of love for a garden all day. Mr. Rogers was the final speaker who signed up, but if there's anyone else here who wants to come forward, now would be the time. Okay, this public hearing is closed. And Madam Secretary, any other business before the commission?
No, Madam Chair.
Great. So I will wish everyone a good morning because we are wrapping up in the morning.
Okay. Hi, how are you?